So 202, we have the NASCAR Championship in just 6 days at Phoenix Raceway, where we will be on the ground with coverage, and we got a lot to break down from the penultimate race of the season this past weekend at Martinsville, as well as a Formula One weekend in Mexico that had a frantic start and a change at the top spot in the points, and it's not Piastri and it's not Verstappen, it's Lando Norris leading the points after a dominant showing in Mexico. Motorsports Today, every episode powered by SeatGeek. Use the promo code MTODAY, all caps, one word, $20 off your first purchase at checkout. Find us on the socials at Motorsports Today, on the web at motorsportstoday.net. We're live on Mondays from 7 to 8 p.m., Fridays 12 to 1 p.m. Every episode, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Eddie Kalegi, Adam Tropper, Tim Moore, Tyrell Baker, all here with you. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get into what you might have missed from the weekend with our pit stop. So we start things with NASCAR, all three series in action at Martinsville, getting things set for the respective Final Fours. It came down to the final lap in the Craftsman Truck Series. Lane Riggs unable to get into the field of four. Ty Majeski pointing his way in alongside Caden Honeycutt, who had a masterful run in Stuart Friesen's 52 car. Tyler Ankrum, who's had a good season at McAnally, and Corey Heim, who won the race and will compete for the title on Friday night. In the Xfinity Series, Taylor Gray scored his first career secondary series victory, but he was already out of the playoff picture. 3 of the 4 fighting for the championship in Phoenix will be from Junior Motorsports. No surprise to see Connor Zilisch or defending champion Justin Allgaier, but they're accompanied by Carson Quapple, who doesn't even have a full-time ride lined up next year, and the lone non-Junior Motorsports car in Jesse Love from RCR. A lot of drama end of the race, Sam Mayer and Jeb Burton. I know we're going to have some talk about that later in the show. Then in the Cup Series, Martinsville, another classic Martinsville race that came down to a battle between two drivers, William Byron and Ryan Blaney. Blaney qualified 31st, was in the top 10 before the end of stage 1, and it was him and the 24 duking it out for the win. But with 40 laps to go, as Blaney tried to pass Ty Dillon, William Byron got to his inside, made a moved the 12 out of the way, and Blaney, even after a late caution, was never able to get him back. Byron winning his way into the championship 4, and Kyle Larson taking the final point spot, had a better day than Christopher Bell, outran him in both stages and beat him in the race as well. So it'll be 2 Gibbs cars, 2 Hendrick cars fighting for a championship in the desert on Sunday night. Denny Hamlin and Chase Briscoe, who, by the way, both had engine failures, but of course had the safety guard of winning earlier in the round. Those two will go head-to-head with the Chevys of Byron and Larson. And then in Formula One, Mexican Grand Prix, Lando Norris started out front. They were 4 wide for the lead in turn 1. Him, both Ferraris, and Max Verstappen. Leclerc and Verstappen both went off course. Oscar Piastri was back in 7th and just could not make any ground, and Lando Norris was simply dominant. Norris ended up scoring the victory in a strong performance. Max Verstappen on pit strategy was able to leapfrog his way back into podium position. He finished 3rd. Charles Leclerc was 2nd. Career best effort for Ali Behrman at Haas. He got 4th. Piastri had to settle for 5th. And with that result, with 4 races left in the season, Lando Norris now has the points lead by a single point over Oscar Piastri in the championship. Max Verstappen still in striking distance, only 36 points back. 4 races to go. Brazil, Vegas, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi. They're off this weekend. They will be back on November 9th. And we'll get to Formula One in a little bit. But guys, let's talk about it. NASCAR Championship, Cup Series, Martinsville. It was a good one. And allow me to just start with this, and maybe a little disclaimer here. Still, I have a lot of questions about the playoff format. This may be the final time we see a champion crowned this way, but I know Christopher Bell and Ryan Blaney both had solid cases to be in the championship mix, but let's be real here. This is a very competitive championship 4. This is maybe the best slate of 4 that we have seen, and I'm really excited to see it because I think all 4 of these guys can win a championship. William Byron, regular season champion, saw how good he was when he's locked in. Rudy Fugel's got that car set up. He's on rails, and he can be as dominant as any driver in the field. Then, of course, you got his teammate, the 5-car, Kyle Larson. He's had a great year, too. Has had some missteps during the season, but has shown a lot of speed, has been really fast the last 4 weeks at 4 different track types. I'd be very confident if I'm a Kyle Larson fan. Next up, you got Denny Hamlin. 6-time winner, leads the series and wins this year. You know he is hungry to win that championship and deserves it this year maybe more than ever. And his teammate, having a career year, Chase Briscoe, 19 car, leads the series in top fives, has been so good in the postseason. And William Byron's victory, I think it's funny because it comes 10 years to the weekend of the last win for this guy, the legendary Jeff Gordon. And it really makes me think that this championship 4 has a lot of parallels to the championship 4 from 2015 because Gordon, Byron, both of them really good regular season performers over the past couple of years, the last couple of years for Jeff Gordon, and now trying to win a championship. Kyle Larson, former champion, driving a Chevy who didn't have the best year, but when he's good, and he's good at closing out races, who does that remind me of? The closer, Kevin Harvick. I wouldn't forget about that 4-car, back then, and I think Harvick, Larson, a lot of similarities there. Then, of course, you got the villain, the driver who is looking for that championship, has kind of turned heel on the sport, but has won so many races during the season. Denny Hamlin's done that this year. You know who did that 10 years ago? Kyle Busch. And we all remember a lot of off-track distractions, Kyle Busch dealing with the injury, Hamlin dealing with the lawsuit, and then you got a guy sponsored by Bass Pro who's having a career year, Chase Briscoe this year, MTJ 10 years ago. So there's a lot of commonalities I see between those two, but something that I will conclude, both of those, 2015, 2025, very deserving sets of 4 that are battling for the championship. I can't really make my pick yet, but I'll go to Tropper first. We're going to have a lot of fun in Phoenix on Sunday because these 4 all would be deserving champions this year, which I think is just much needed for NASCAR after what's gone on over the last few years.
Absolutely. For everything that we've even been complaining about the playoff format for, and really the rest of the industry has, I want to be clear. It is time for a change of the format, but this time around, it probably couldn't have gotten any better. Christopher Bell, I think I even saw one of the post-race interviews. He even said that these 4 are the most deserving in the playoff of the format actually got it right this time, which is very, very rare from even a driver, especially one that didn't actually advance to say that. So it really goes to show the 4 that are there. And you're right. Phoenix is going to be incredible, especially for us being on site. So stay tuned. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of great coverage. But it's so stacked. I mean, I'm based off that 2015 comparison, very honestly, a lot closer than I thought when you put it that way, Eddie. But the winner in 2015, Kyle Busch, it makes me lean towards Denny Hamlin. I'm just saying it now. I'm not sure if I'm locking in or calling it, but it could mean something. Regardless, though, especially in the next gen era, this is probably the most stacked Final Four we have and the most unpredictable because even though we've been saying it for the last 9 weeks that we thought a Ford and a Penske would sneak their way in, somehow, some way, it did not pan out. So I think 2 Hendrick cars, 2 JGR cars, 2 Chevys, 2 Toyotas, this is as even as it gets going into the desert.
Yeah, and I think something else that stands out, Tyrell, is all 4 of these drivers are very good at Phoenix. I mean, Denny Hamlin's had his moments here, and at least sample size of this season, he's, in my opinion, had the most races where he's had true winning speed of any driver in the field. Kyle Larson has got it done in this format at this track to win a championship just 4 years ago. And William Byron and Chase Briscoe, undeniably, Phoenix is one of the best tracks historically for both of them. They've both won here in spring races before. So not only are these guys all deserving from the 35 race season, but I think they all have a really good shot and maybe a really equal shot at getting it done on Sunday.
Yeah, this is definitely the most stacked championship 4 that we've seen, and you can make great cases for every single one of them winning. Honestly, I mean, Denny Hamlin was a bumper away from winning in the spring, so it's like, how do you not choose him? And of course, Larson has had success also, like you said, in this format, winning at Phoenix, winning the championship back in 21, and Chase Briscoe has also won a race here back in, I believe it was 2023, I believe, when he won with Stewart-Haas, and then Byron was very close to winning the championship a few years ago when he got into the championship 4, and they have a lot of momentum right now. And I will say, a few weeks ago on the show, actually last week, I did say Byron was probably not going to make it, and I said Larson was not going to point in. I have to eat my words on that, and I was very wrong. And I can definitely see either one of those guys walking with the championship. It's going to be a toss-up. I'm just like you. I don't know who's going to win it. I can't even choose.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the 4 that were eliminated in just a second. But Tim, I want to get your perspective too, because I mean we ripped on Hendrick for obvious reasons after how Talladega went. But let's be honest, a lot of what went wrong for Hendrick over the course of the first 2 races of the round of 8 weren't their doing, especially when you think of what happened with William Byron. They could have very easily had Larson and Byron finish 1-2 in both Vegas and Dega if things went the right way. William Byron undeniably had a top 1 or 2 car in all 3 round of 8 races at 3 different tracks. So if you talk about in this format getting things right at the right time, Hendrick has done that. And I think this is a team that can truly go toe-to-toe with JGR at Phoenix, even though if you take the full sample size, dating back to the round of 16, it feels like Joe Gibbs Racing has been the best team in the playoffs.
Yeah, well, I'll also say it like this, Eddie, too, and maybe you could dispute me if I've come off wrong from this perspective, but honestly, I kind of view Hendrick coming to life here in this round to almost kind of being like what Penske does every year, except they don't do it from the start of race 1 of a 10-race playoff. They do it in the back half, and I'm not saying that they put all their cards here into this back half of the season, but just more the fact of like they have been trying to figure it out, and they've gone through such a long phase. And listen, we always talk about Hendrick being the top, being the most elite, but they kind of said, hey, these first 2 rounds, with how our regular season's gone, you kind of like the points conversation is what gets talked about. But to win a championship, once we get to that final round of 8, you just simply have to win. And that's, that's what Jack Canal said. That's what Jeff Gordon told me after Kansas. The win for Chase Elliott was great. But to me, it seemed like that Hendrick needed that boost. And again, was that win for Chase Elliott at Kansas the momentum switcher for Hendrick? I don't know. I still don't think it is. I think it was how they started off the round at Vegas. And yes, I know William Byron crashes because of Ty Dillon's misfortune or mistake. And that ultimately puts the 24 in the situation he had to go to Martinsville. But guys, I said it last Monday, in fact. I said you can't count out William Byron. The one thing that Hendrick has done so well is that when they qualify well as an organization and they show these solid averages, they are really, really hard to beat. And what we saw at Martinsville and really throughout this entire round, the Hendrick cars, the first time since the start of the season, they put it together, they found that speed, and it's very fair to say, and I know it's a very short sample and it's a factor of the system, but it's very fair to say, yes, the Toyotas may have looked best in this playoff system in terms of consistency, but if the Hendrick cars are qualifying well and they're showing the speed that they once had, I think it's going to be very, very hard to beat them, even at a track that they may not have the upper edge in the long run compared to the Toyotas. And I have to say this, William Byron, we talk about his natural talent. Of course, we talk about Kyle Larson being the most naturally talented driver out there on the circuit. But William Byron knows how to set fast laps. He knows how to be aggressive and so on. And they talked about it so many times on the broadcast on Sunday and really throughout the weekend, to be honest with you. When you get to Martinsville, there's just a tendency of guys who need to win put themselves in a spot. We find it so often. It's because the best 8 in the sport, more often than not, rather we like the system or not, are typically in the final round of 8. And this is what it comes down to. And for this entire weekend, I know the Cup race may not have been as exciting as the first 2 in terms of the playoff bubble talk, but for William Byron to do what he did at Martinsville, I may go out here and I may say this, I may make this argument. William Byron's won a lot of races in his young career, and William Byron's not really young anymore, despite me saying that. But that may have been the most impressive win of William Byron's career, because when you have to put your back against the wall to do what he did, and know that if Ryan Blaney, who all day long had been significantly better than Byron on the short run, or they had one bad pit stop, his season came to an end. And yet he clutched up and he pulled away from arguably the best car all season long at passing people. And by the way, that car proved, unlike anybody else in the field, that he can pass in that race, going from the back of the field to the front as quick as he did out of Ryan Blaney. So you just have to give Hendrick credit, and you have to give them their flowers, needless to say, because what I saw this weekend is a championship performance and a potential for Phoenix to be wide open, no matter how consistent or good Toyota has been.
Yeah, they have been really fantastic, and I agree with you 100%. And I ripped on William Byron about being the 100 overall driver.
All of us sat here and said that, listen, we saw potentially, I mean, TCB, for example, gave the Toyota Final Four prediction. Most of us agreed with that. I mean, 3 of us in here said Christopher Bell was going to be the champion this year. We all agreed Toyota has something. It just came to a factor again where, yes, obviously Talladega is unpredictable and so on, and Las Vegas worked out how it did, but sometimes you got to get to that extra level if you're going to want to be a champion. We saw it from Chase Elliott back when he won his championship. What was it, 2020? 2020, Larson, 2021. Sometimes there's that extra moment. Ryan Blaney, when he won his championship a few years ago, you've got to get to that next step, and that's what separates the best from the rest. And for Hendrick, we've been talking about for years about how, hey, they have 3 of the top, maybe 5 drivers in the sport based on natural talent. And the reason why they're deemed that is because they know how to find that next level when they do. So again, you got to give Hendrick their flowers. They may not have looked as pretty as they have in the first 5, 6 races of the playoffs, but the last 3 and now maybe a 4th, again, if they show the speed they have this last round, there is nobody stopping Hendrick Motorsports, even though we all counted them out at the start. I really do think they found what they needed with this format, whether it's the last one or not, to get something to work to put themselves in a chance to win a championship. And I would not be surprised, by the way. I'll say it like this. I know a lot of guys sit here and talk about, again, the recency of success for Toyota, but I would not be surprised if we're coming out of Phoenix next week with William Byron being the champion, because he's been in this scenario, just like we talked about Christopher Bell a couple times and just unable to capitalize or just short. William Byron can find that little bit extra right now more than I would say anybody else in the field. And this win last week, again, it proved it. It really did.
It really did. A championship level performance. And Tropper, I mean, the battle with Ryan Blaney was crazy too, because Blaney had the best car. I mean, we're not going to sit here and talk about the next gen product at Martinsville. We've done that many times before. Passing was coming at a premium. Let's just leave it at that. Ryan Blaney, though, defied that and went 31st up to 10th. It was a performance similar to SVG at a road course, where he's the only one who can pass on different pit strategies off of restarts. Ryan Blaney was doing that at Martinsville, and as Tim alluded to, he's done that all season long, and he goes out and he gets his way to the front, and William Byron make sure he hangs in there. And I remember on the broadcast, they were talking about Rudy Fugle kept telling William Byron, be patient with 90 laps to go, 80 laps to go. Like, laps go fast at Martinsville, but just stay in touch, because eventually lap traffic will come and an opportunity will present itself and you can take advantage. What did he do? The one moment Ryan Blaney had a little bit of a stumble trying to pass Ty Dillon, where he got off of the bottom off of 4, where he had been wrapping that curb all race. He gets off, William Byron gets through, and then on the final restart, after Spire nearly ruins it for Hendrick Motorsports, William Byron still wins. So you gotta give a lot of credit to both Byron Tropper, but also Ryan Blaney, because even though Blaney's not going to be fighting for a championship, again, he probably would have if Las Vegas didn't happen. He had a great year too, and he had a really impressive performance, and it just adds to how great Byron's win was, that he beat a car that to me was performing at an SVG road course level at a short track.
Absolutely. It seems like for a lot of the race, there was no stopping that 12 car of Ryan Blaney. Just incredible what he was able to do for, like you said, the next gen package, short tracks, not exactly known for passing, but it did seem like a concern to him. But I'm trying not to reiterate too much how you described it, Eddie, but obviously that move William Byron had with, what was it, 45 to go when he took the lead. First off, funny how it was Ty Dillon that stalled Ryan Blaney. Maybe a little bit of an apology to William Byron from Vegas. You never know. But all jokes aside, it's that William Byron, that's a championship move right there, taking advantage when he had to, and wasn't an aggressive move. Absolutely. I thought might have even went a little over the line, and I was worried that Blaney was going to completely dump Byron if he got to it. But the great thing that Byron did was just be able to stay calm after all that and have the maturity to drive away. Yes, he had the faster car in that run anyway, but being able to pick and choose the lap traffic when you're going to pass and just avoid Blaney from getting to your back bumper. Even on the restart, that last restart, Byron did as good of a job as he could. Yes, it is hard to start on the outside lane in Blaney's defense, and he stayed with him for about a half a lap, but Byron was able to create that buffer to avoid getting hit from behind, and that's really all you can do. It's Jeff Gordon-esque in a way. I mean, literally just because the 24 won at Martinsville again in the fall. But I think I said this maybe exactly. My one of my all-time favorite drivers, him and Jimmy. Jeff got me into sports, so I always have a soft spot for the 24. Great. Now I forgot my train of thought. Thanks, Eddie.
All I did was hold up a picture of a car. I was giving you a visual aid, Tropper.
It was great, but it kind of stowed me off of where I was going. What I was going to say was something along the lines of, oh yes, Byron. Yes, it shows that he has become championship caliber. It is really just what I'm getting at. No, that's what it was. A few weeks ago, sorry about that. A few weeks ago, I said that I would not be surprised, even though the Hendrick cars were struggling, I would not be surprised if the Hendrick car found their way victory lane in Martinsville, even though historically they're better in the spring. I said that it is possible for one of them to find their way. And in this case, it was William Byron. But like I said, he did a masterful job of holding off Blaney, who realistically, I think was the best car of the whole race, the threat for Phoenix. Like, it wasn't just Byron. If Blaney wins at Martinsville, there's a very good chance that Penske wins another championship. And Hamlin, Briscoe, Larson, none of them wanted that to happen either. So Byron almost saved the day for everyone in that regard, maybe even the fans too, who are getting a little bit tired of seeing the 12 or the 22 win a championship. But just overall, masterful run by William Byron. He proved, even though he's young, this is what his 8th year already in the series. Not he is proving to be a veteran, someone who can show up in these championship moments. And I don't know if he's going to win next week, but if he does, you could pinpoint it to this and be like, this is what led him in his career to a whole nother stratosphere.
Yeah, he's got championships on the way, even if they don't come next week. I had my doubts at the beginning of his career, but really the last 3 years, we have seen Byron emerge into one of those Hendrick stars. Not to Jimmy and Jeff's level yet, but he's on the right trajectory. But let's shift to Toyota for a second. We'll get back to Penske. Christopher Bell. Listen, he was all of our championship picks except Jeffrey. He picked Ty Gibbs, long story. But Christopher Bell has been my championship pick the last 3 years. And it reminds me of a point Tim made about how there are certain championship moments that people have. Christopher Bell has lacked them. He's had great moments at the end of rounds, Xing yesterday. But he just hasn't been able to get it done. Of course, he had the DNF at Phoenix a couple years ago. Last year, I still think he kind of got hosed from being in the Final Four, but it's been a year. I got to forget about that. This year, you can't make any excuses, Tyrell. He went out with a whimper. And when you compare it, the other two Toyotas effortlessly get victories right away into the Final Four. And Bell, he knew. I mean, you gotta know going into this, as Larson had said after Dega, there's a good chance one of these guys below the cut line is gonna win their way in. So it becomes a situation where if you're Bell, regardless of what's going on at the front, all you gotta do all weekend is race the 5 car. And Larson didn't even have a great day. Larson ran well, but it was not as good as the 5 had been the last 3 weeks. And Bell was really nowhere close to Larson the entire race. And I feel like over the 500 laps, that 20 car just got worse.
Yeah, it definitely did get worse. And Eddie, I know I wasn't here at the beginning of the year to choose championship picks, but I also had Bell down as my champion this year too, especially after seeing him just knock off 3 wins in a row. I was like, he's going to be dangerous this year. And to see him get knocked out was kind of surprising. But like you said, his car was just not good at all. They just could not hang on to it. He said he was loose during the race, and he just would in the beginning of the run about fifth or sixth around Larson, and then at the end of the run he'd be like ninth or 10th, and he just could not keep up. Now at one point the points got very close. They were tied at one point, but then Larson just kept pulling away from him, and Christopher Bell just kept sliding back. I think I remember one run he just let by lap cars. He let by like Ty Dillon, and then there was another car that came up. I don't really remember who it was, but he just let them by for position, and I was just like baffled. Me and my girlfriend were watching, and I told her, I was like, he's just rolling over. He's just almost as if he was giving up, but I know he wasn't. But just the car was just not good, and you really hate to see it for him. I mean, like I said, 3 wins earlier in the season, and then he knocked off Bristol in the playoffs. But you really think back to maybe Vegas. He could have had a chance to win Vegas. He finished third there, and of course Talladega is just a crapshoot. But man, I mean, I really, really thought that we were, like I said a few weeks ago, thought we were gonna have 3 Toyotas. And I knew for sure Bell was going to get in, and I honestly I am a little bit disappointed that Bell didn't get in. But you know what? Like they always say, there's always next year, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Brings up a very good point, actually, Eddie. And I don't know if we talked about it immediately after Talladega. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I know we said Talladega in the round of 8 was already kind of controversial, and I think I even said before it happened, let's just hope that nothing catastrophic goes wrong. Which you can make an argument that it might have for some drivers, but what do we think about the fact that Talladega was this late into the playoffs? I just want your guys' opinion.
I mean, it shouldn't be this late in the playoffs, but this format is problematic to begin with. Like I think this is a very good representation of 4 drivers, as I said off the top, but I think there's at least an element of that, and Tim, you could probably agree here, that it's part of it's because there's so much parity at the top of the Cup Series this year. It's still the same 3 dominant teams, but it's very hard to say who the best driver is, because I think any of these 4, plus Bell, plus Blaney, plus Elliott, have all made a case for being the best driver, and there's not much separation between them, which makes a very justifiable championship 4. And to tie back to the Talladega point, it didn't have, it really affected Chase Elliott the most, but it didn't really affect the quality of the championship 4, because we still got a good set of 4, because besides Logano, everybody else has made a championship level case. But I mean, I got a problem with Talladega being there, but I think the bigger issue, Tim, is this format itself, because I will say Christopher Bell had the best average finish of the 9 races of the playoffs, yet because you have this winning in, he doesn't advance. So you got to point that out too.
Yeah, and again, when the round resets, you also got to remember too, you get your playoff points rebuffer, and you don't start at an even slate, which in a way, right, hurts Christopher Bell, because granted, when you look at it, Kyle Larson, shows up, Great Vegas, so on. He has that bad luck at the end of Talladega. I mean, yeah, sure, if he doesn't run out of gas, let's be honest, Christopher Bell doesn't really have a chance at Martinsville. But at the same time, it makes you reset your mind, and you're not focused exactly on the next race. You're thinking about just a couple races at a time and what you need to do within that 3-race span. And I understand a little bit of NASCAR's thinking of what it was when they opted to go with it this late in the season, because it's a lot less likely that a fluke winner will advance themselves to the next round of the playoffs. But more often than not, those fluke winners, if they didn't win the super speedways prior, they're probably not going to be there. So I don't exactly feel, and I agree with you in this system, Talladega doesn't exactly declare a fair champion if somebody wins it, in my opinion. But I will say this at the same time, this is what you got to remember as well. I mean, realistically, if this was a different playoff format, and let's say it's the proposed playoff format of, they have 3 races to decide a champion and spread out, I wouldn't exactly have a problem with Talladega being this late in the season, if that's the case. If there was more than one sample size and that was the way separating it, I don't think that's big of a deal. But because of how it worked out and how this schedule it is, to me it hurts, and it's all about system. And I also just don't want to discredit this either, because to me the last 3 years, and Eddie, you mentioned about how, it feels like you can't create a top driver because there's been so much parity. To me, it seems like when somebody finally starts to grab the reins, they get knocked back 6-7 notches. I mean, Denny Hamlin this year many would argue was the best looking driver at many points throughout the season. And then he fell apart. We mentioned Christopher Bell. Last year, it was Kyle Larson. Then he ran the double, didn't get credited points. And then that long story towards the end of the regular season, Kyle Larson wasn't the top guy in the sport anymore, right? Once we got to the playoffs, and he still had a good season, but he wasn't the guy. And the year before that, I mean, it wasn't a double story, but it was kind of the same thing. You couldn't exactly declare number one. I feel with this system, it makes it really hard. And if this system is to continue, by the way, guys, I know Joey Logano's mastered it the most, but we talk about Jimmy Johnson winning 7 championships. Darn, I don't think anybody's going to win 5 championships if this system continues, because it's just that unpredictable. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because at the same time, you want it to be hard to win a championship. You really do. You want the best to stand out, yes, but you want it to be hard. I mean, think about, I know a lot of people criticize the NBA about how many teams make their play-in tournament, but has the NBA had a repeat champion in the past couple of years with how everything's worked out? No, it's different teams in the NBA finals every year. So my point is just more this. I'm not saying that that's a good thing or a bad thing, but at least from the perspective of how NASCAR has it as an individual and a mix of a team sport, not having a champion that the same champion every year, like how Jimmy Johnson did for many years, may be a good thing, but it takes away from so much more, which is why the playoff system needs to change. There needs to be a consistency value. And one last thing, too, I'll just say real quick.
Yeah.
I don't want to take away, because I mentioned in our text chat, I don't want to take away, I know the playoff format stinks, and we all agree on that. But this round, in my opinion, for the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series, may have been the best display of what this playoff format was designed to be since its existence. Because watching the trucks throughout this entire round, in my opinion, was some of the most exciting racing. The fact that the best of the best trucks all had a chance on points, except for Figuereda's mechanical issues, and just watching the points gap being single digits go back and forth, it was like watching, a battle of the best quarterbacks in the league just try to figure it out and try to outplay each other. And the Xfinity race, no matter what issues happened to Carson Quapple and so on, people tried to find themselves in a position. It was just fun to watch. The Cup race, or the Cup format, that's a little different. But the first 2 races this weekend, I just don't want to take any credit away. It was spectacular to see what the Truck Series and Xfinity Series did, despite the circumstances.
Yeah, the product was good, and I agree it brings out the best of the best, but I also feel like it brings out the worst of the worst. Because no knock on Honeycutt, no knock on Ankrum, but if either of those guys win the Truck Championship over Corey Heim on Friday night, it again...
Absolutely. Yeah. But can I also say this too? And I again, we're not a speculation show. We're not a rumor show. But obviously, we all know Caden Honeycutt lost to 45 because he was going to Tricon and next year and so on, and they didn't keep him. If he wins the championship, listen, he's the underdog story going into this weekend, because you kind of want to root for him. Say, hey, this guy lost his job because he made a better future decision for himself, and now he gets revenge on that. And also, let's talk about Carson Quapple, too, while we're at it. I mean, Carson Quapple, we don't know. Did he sign the Penske Futures Agreement? That's what's rumored. It's not my job to announce if that's true or not. But if he's not running full-time in junior motorsports next year and this man wins a championship, how do you have your champion not run full-time in a series and not have a Cup ride? I'm just saying, so it's like there's some good stories out of this, even though Connor Zilic or Corey Heim should be a champion. But, I mean... You're not getting that story with another format. So again, I'm not trying to be for the format, but with how it is currently, I mean, can't you root for anarchy? I feel like you have to root for anarchy.
It's a way to make the most of it, and at the same time, I've seen some people tweeting about it. Enjoy it for what it is, because this is the last time. I'd say 90% sure that it's going to be like this. Now, there could be a 3-race championship round. There could be a 4-race championship round. There could be a 10. We don't really know exactly what's going to happen, but it's going to change in some fashion.
They should bring playoffs.
And also remember, this is year 12. Oh, sorry, Tim. I was just saying, this is year 12 of the playoff format, at least for the Cup Series now. And that's longer than what we had for the 10-race chase, which is my personal proposal, by the way. I'm still stand by that as the correct playoff format for how to do it. But I don't want to say it's run its course because it's ironic now that this is the best display of the playoffs we've seen. But Eddie, you're absolutely right on that last statement. Enjoy it for what we have, because all criticism aside, we aren't going to see it again. So even if it's just for jokes, just take it in. And Tim, you want anarchy? Let's have Honeycutt, Quapple, and Denny Hamlin win the championship. That is ultimate anarchy.
Yes,
Whoa.
and then Denny Hamlin loses his charters a month later. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Again, we're going to have the coverage from the track this weekend. And I know Tim has another thought on the Xfinity Series race about what happened with a certain driver. We're going to save that for the end for our tweets of the week because it ties in with that. One other thing I want to talk about with the Cup race, though, there were a couple repeat crashers. I don't know what on earth was going on with Spire Tyrell. Carson Hocevar had a rough day. I loved when Jeff Burton made the comment about free spins or whatever because he had like some casino sponsor. Michael McDowell ran into him, Daniel Suarez, both of his teammates next year. It was a rough day for Spire. But what on earth was Eric Jones doing in stage 3?
I have to say this. I'm probably gonna have some kind of Tim rant here, but me and my girlfriend were watching the race, and so Eric Jones spins out, as everyone saw, and he's sitting sideways on the track, and I'm like, oh, that's gonna be yellow, and they're still showing like, oh, no yellow, and then they pan back to him, and he's still sideways on the track. And I'm like, what is happening? This should be a yellow. He's sitting parallel to the track. I'm waiting to see, honestly, Hocevar run right into him because that's how his day had been. And there was no yellow. So I went back and looked. Someone on Twitter said it was 13 and a half seconds or something like that it took for them to throw the yellow. I understand that they were in the middle of doing pit sequences and stuff. They were in the middle of pit stops. But still, I've always said this, a caution is a caution. And I'm going to go off the rails a little bit, but this Saturday I was at a local dirt track in New York, and there was a small wreck in turn 1. I mean, it's hard to see. There was dust, but the guy spun out, and he was up like in the fluff, and a yellow was out right away, and there was some guys on a tow truck that were literally standing on the back, which was very questionable, coming out, and they towed him out, and it was all over. They went back green in 2 laps. But my point is the yellow came out right away. So I don't know why it took so long for them to throw the yellow. I think, I mean, it could have been very unsafe. Like I said, he could have got hit. And it was just ridiculous. Now, another thing that was ridiculous, I'm sorry again for going on the rant, Carson Hocevar. I mean, he is a dart with no feathers every single week, I feel like. I mean, there's been multiple weeks where he's wrecking guys, wrecking himself. But this week, it was like everyone was just taking turns, just punching him. And I thought Ricky Stenhouse was going to get on it. But, man, I mean, the first wreck was like, okay. And then, I mean, he just kept kind of getting turned. And then he turned himself around. No, I don't think he turned himself around. Somebody punted him. But, I mean, man, even Jeff Gordon came out and said, oh, how many times did Carson Hocevar spin out today? Oh, was that the 3rd time? I lost count. When you spin out that many times, that is very bad. And for Jeff Gordon, Hendrick Motorsports that has poured so much money into this team as the development team, when the VP calls your driver out, that's a terrible look, especially if William Byron loses that race. I mean, given I know Hocevar got turned by his teammate, if that race plays out any other way, Jeff Gordon is, I mean, he's already pissed at Hocevar, but I mean, he would come down so hard on Hocevar for that. And I mean, just Team Spire in general. So I'm going to leave it with this. Monday morning, I'm sure this morning was quite the amazing meeting, as you can imagine. But I mean, Hocevar, I know he got turned again, but he's just got to clean it up because going into next year, this can't keep happening where almost every other week somebody's talking about him or he's getting wrecked or wrecking someone.
Yeah, and I know he's young, but next year's already year 3 full-time in the Cup Series, so he's got the experience, and you got to hope that the respect starts to go both ways. But, you know, when you drive for a team affiliated with Hendrick and you're upsetting this guy, I hope I didn't cause you to lose your train of thought again, Tropper. But if you upset this guy, that's not good. So we'll see how things play out with Spire.
Speaking of train of thought there, well, I think of one big comparison with Hocevar, and we've talked about this comparison before. Ross Chastain, Trackhouse, kind of Hendrick affiliate, or at least with Chevrolet, and it took Ross probably 2 years for him to get his act together in terms of respect for from the other organizations and other drivers. So the parallels are uncanny, and I think we're finally seeing that. I think it's the end of season just chaos. A lot of the drivers that have nothing left to lose in the playoffs just wanted to take their opportunity to get a crack at Hocevar for better or for worse. And hopefully, with the offseason, he'll be better off. He'll learn from his mistakes. But do we say that this Martinsville performance was worse than Brian Vickers? What was it, 2011?
No, there's nothing.
No. Also, was it? Oh gosh, was it Todd Kluver? I don't remember who it was. There was somebody in the experiment Roush car that also spun.
Todd Cleaver.
Yeah, was it Todd Cleaver?
5 yellows.
Yeah, that was brutal too to watch.
There was also the Cody Ware race a couple years ago when Mike Joy was like 7 cautions in this race. Ware has been part of 3 of them. Or the one where there was the night race at Martinsville when Cody Ware dumped James Davison.
Yes.
Teammate. There's been some rough performances that have been worse than Hocevar's.
Can I just dispute Tropper a little bit real quick though? Because here's the thing that just kind of it comes up my crawl a little bit about Carson Hocevar. Because listen, I think Carson's young. I think he's talented, and I understand when you're young, you make bad mistakes. But at the same time, like, we got to remember, and you just mentioned he's about to go into year 3. Like, this is year 2. Last year, Carson kind of mind his P's and Q's here and there. I mean, don't get me wrong. He ticked people off. He still was very aggressive. But I would argue he's made far more mistakes this year, had far more crashes, and far more rookie mistakes his second year. And I just think it comes with a little bit of thinking. You talk about learning from your mistakes. I don't know if Carson Hocevar is learning from his mistakes, because I'd argue he's driving far worse in 2025 than he was in 2024 from a racecraft standpoint. So if it were me, and if I were the owner of Spire, I would sit this young kid down, because I'm going to be honest with you. If it goes like this next year, I don't care how talented Carson Hocevar is. If he's mid-20s in points and he's wrecking and everything, you've got to do what Jack Roush did to Ricky Stenhouse Jr. You got to sit him down, make him sit out the car and learn his lesson. Darn, that's what I said Jr. should do to Sam Mayer after he did what he did to Taylor Gray back in Martinsville earlier this year, and so many others. I said it about Ty Dillon, right? You got to start holding drivers accountable. And by holding them accountable, you take them out of your ride, you sit them down, and that's how you learn from their mistakes. Just like you do it in team sports. But for Carson Hocevar next year, I'm just saying, if these mistakes continue to happen, I don't care how fast you are, how aggressive you want to be, he makes it very obvious. He says in media he has no friends, right? And I by the way, I don't agree with that. I think Carson Hocevar has friends. They may not be people at the track, but he's got friends. The difference is, though...
What about JJ Yeley?
Yeah, well, I wish JJ could be my friend. That's a different story, though. Anyway,
tried. But Tim, I agree with you in that regard. But my question is, how much of the reason Hocevar has been making other drivers angry is similar to the Chastain thing? Hocevar has been at the front more consistently this year.
I understand it's being aggressive, but where I disagree is it's brainless mistakes. I don't. That's the best way I could put it.
Fair.
It's not big picture thinking. Ross made his mistakes because he was fast for the first time ever and tried to make the most out of everything. And people didn't like that somebody that isn't usually fast was racing them very hard. I'm not saying that Denny Hamlin was in the right to be, or wasn't in the right to be upset with Ross Chastain, but it felt like everybody just got on the bandwagon. The difference between Ross Chastain and Carson Hocevar is Ross Chastain's been to a playoff. Ross Chastain's been to a Final Four. Darn, Ross Chastain has won multiple Cup races. Carson Hocevar hasn't proved anything. He hasn't won a Truck Series championship. Sure, he's won a couple truck races, but he hasn't won the Cup Series. He hasn't been competitive. He hasn't even been a top 20 driver in the Cup Series. He has a lot to prove, and I understand, again, there's a long time, and I don't want to act like he doesn't have talent. He does. But if that happens again next year, he's not going to have a long career in the Cup Series, because you can't keep on junking stuff and expect to just get away with it. No matter how rich you are, you could be freaking Ty Gibbs and have your grandpa funding your cars every week. If you keep on junking stuff, you will not be on a racetrack, that's simply put. And that's the best way I can put it, truthfully. That's it.
Yeah, to speak
Sorry, Eddie. So Tropper, also I want to jump in, and Tim, you have hit that out of the park. Home run. Great job, buddy. I completely agree. But Tropper, like, I know you said drivers will hopefully maybe respect him. I think if you look back to how he got into the series, right? Like when he started racing trucks, he was wrecking people, dumping people all the time. I even think back to RIP or IRP, sorry, when he dumped, I forgot who it was. He dumped him head on the wall. And then, I mean, he's done countless other things. Obviously, the Corey Heim thing when Heim was racing for the championship. And with that, it seems as he almost hasn't learned. I don't know if maybe he does need to be sat down and maybe sit out a race, or maybe he needs to actually like work on the stuff that he junks. Like maybe, I don't know, he shows up to a Toyota shop or something, just somebody, whoever he dumps that week, he needs to go there and actually work on the car and like as an I'm sorry or something, just so that way he actually realizes, oh wait, there are actually some repercussions for my actions.
Yeah, because, but I disagree with that, DCB, not to interrupt, just because to me it seems like, I mean, we've heard about veterans like Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin talk about it multiple times and talk about, yeah, he's young, dumb, makes mistakes, and that he claims he's aware of the circumstances. I don't think Carson Hocevar showing up to a shop is what's going to change Carson Hocevar. Having Carson Hocevar take a seat and sit back and realize that his actions have consequences and that it's not going to allow him to be in a car, to me, is more impactful. But you've got to find somebody that has the galls to stand up to sponsors and say, you know what? Having respect on a racetrack and having my team mean something means more than just what I'm being paid from somebody. So that's the thing. That's where it's like, I get where you're coming from with that. But I think we're beyond that with Carson. And I also want to say this too real quick, because I just want to recognize the chat real quick. Kelsey mentioned, guys, that Hocevar, she feels, as a result of being moved up and rushed up through the series before he was ready. And we could see that with Corey Heim. Now, I don't think we'll see it with Corey Heim. Corey Heim has a lot more natural talent than Carson Hocevar. But I will say it like this for Hocevar. Yes, there's immaturity because he got rushed up, but somebody's got to hold him accountable. I don't care about his Twitch stuff like people portray. I don't care that he connects. Listen, I've raced against Carson on iRacing. TCB, you've raced against Carson on iRacing. He does the same stuff over there. There is nothing new we know about Carson Hocevar. He does the same thing on iRacing as he does in real life. It doesn't mean, again, I don't want to come off as a Carson hater. I love Carson to death. But you've got to learn at some point. You just got to learn. And I feel right now we're at a stage for Carson. He's not learning. And the only impact, like, again, showing up to a shop to me doesn't do justice, because I feel like it's been done already, truthfully. And if it's not done, it can definitely be done after this week with all the stuff Spire junked up this week. So either way, I don't feel like that's going to change Carson Hocevar. Only Carson Hocevar learning his consequences, suspension wouldn't do anything for him. But him sitting out, to me, that is what would be the most impactful, which is my argument to you. I feel like we're beyond that.
I agree.
Well, I think the ending line to all that would be what's the quote? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. So if Hocevar keeps doing that, maybe it's insanity, but we got to see whether it'll change. So I actually agree with you guys. I think you guys put up a good argument. I will concede on mine a little bit. I still think Hocevar has that raw potential, but at the same time, he's got to reel himself in.
Yeah, work has to be done for Hocevar. Work has to be done heading into the week for Byron, Larson, Hamlin, and Briscoe. They'll be battling for a championship on Sunday. We're going to circle back in a couple minutes to NASCAR, but I want to touch on Formula One quickly. Mexican Grand Prix. Let me just give you the synopsis. Absolutely bat-you-know-what crazy first turn where they went four wide. You had both Ferraris, Lando and Verstappen. You had both Max and Leclerc miss turn one, and somehow they both ended up recovering to finish on the podium. Red Bull played great strategy. There was no need to pit that car for fresher tires. Just let Max stay out there. He can manage tires better than anybody, and Red Bull realized that, got him a third place finish. Lando Norris needed a good day, needed a great day. Needed a day where he outperformed Max Verstappen. He did that and is rewarded now with the points lead, which I thought he was never going to get back after everything that happened at Zandvoort with his car blown up with 10 laps to go. I just did not think he was going to be able to get there. I thought if anybody was going to take the championship lead away, it would be Max Verstappen. But Tropper, I mean, Piastri's been so irrelevant. And I was hyping him up so much. I'm starting to realize anytime I make a hot take on F1, first of all, I get ripped apart. I mean, I was ripping on Charles Leclerc on the show Friday, and then everybody on TikTok's like, this is why they shouldn't make podcast equipment cheap. And then, of course, I do have to eat my words because Leclerc runs a great race. He finishes second, and now he's got back-to-back podiums. So maybe I'm also wrong, but I was very wrong on Oscar Piastri because I just thought that it was his time. He'd proved it. He had this great run. The last 2.5 months, Oscar Piastri has been terrible, and the difference right now between him and Lando and Max is that when Lando and Max don't have winning speed, they still make sure they have good days. They still work their way up, even if they qualify poorly. They have a bad start. They have a wreck in practice. Oscar Piastri was slow in qualifying, ended up back in 7th, and Tropper, he never moved up. And Mexico's a track with a lot of passing. There was passing all race, and he couldn't get by anybody.
Well, simply put, I think that's just where experience comes into play because Lando and Max have been there a lot longer than Oscar. Oscar's in only his 3rd season. And I agree with you. I was hyping him up throughout the season. I truly thought it was his time, and I still think it can be. I mean, if Max doesn't get back in it, and it's Lando versus Oscar, 1 point apart, they're in the same equipment. I still think Oscar can win the championship here. But I don't know if he's folding under pressure. I don't know if it's an experience thing, an immaturity thing. Also, credit to Lando, though, for not messing up on turn 1 for once. So that's good for him to be able to capitalize on that. But there's just a lot. And we've talked about the drama between McLarens before. I don't know if it's going to happen again. I'm speechless because I'm just shocked that it's gotten to a point where there's only a 1 point gap in the points with four races to go, and the fact that Verstappen is still mathematically in. So it's hard to really speak on it because there's still so much that can happen.
Yeah, a lot can change over the next 4 weeks. And Tyrell, I think the interesting note here is a lot of people that didn't really look into the math that much were like, oh, Lando Norris had this big turnaround. He won the race. He dominated. He gained more points than Verstappen. He's going to be the champion. Max Verstappen had already closed in a bit on Norris. The number that everybody was talking about shrinking from 100 to 40 was his gap to Piastri. He wasn't that far back of Lando Norris. He's only 30 back of Norris right now. So while that result can't keep happening, obviously, he's got to find points on Lando too. This was still a net positive day for Verstappen. The fact that I don't think they had a good car this weekend. They qualified 5th. They end up on the podium, and you still get Piastri slipping back. So I think even without winning, this was a good weekend for Verstappen. Piastri continues to spiral, and he's still only just over a race behind Lando Norris with 4 races to go, 3 of them at tracks that Verstappen has a lot of good history and a lot of wins at before.
I was just about to make that point. Yeah, Verstappen and Brazil is just like a great marriage. I mean, Verstappen is basically unstoppable at Brazil. And man, I know I said last week, or maybe it was a few weeks ago, Oscar Piastri. I mean, the lights are too bright. I really still think that. I'm really behind that. I mean, he is just really slipping and sliding his way back. I honestly even could say maybe Verstappen finished the second in points. I'm not all the way counting him out of the championship now. I mean, with like you said, these next 4 races coming up, these are his tracks. I mean, if you look back, he's won at all these tracks many times. And I mean, Las Vegas, he's the only person that's won there. So he's undefeated. So, I mean, he's still got a chance. And I think this is going to be another great points battle this year coming up. Maybe almost as good as 2021. I don't like speaking on that one that much. But yeah, I really do see... I see Norris honestly kind of maybe walking away with it, but Piastri's just falling back.
It's amazing, too, because I think when we had this conversation a month ago, it felt like Lando Norris was maybe the one who had the least chance to win the championship of the 3, just because it felt like he couldn't get out of his own way, and suddenly everything has flipped on a dime. So it's just really unbelievable that things have taken this type of turn in the championship, and Lando Norris, credit where credit is due, had a great day. I do want to say Max Verstappen kind of thanking his lucky stars for one thing in this race that helped his podium, because I put on the race, I was watching NASCAR, but then I caught around lap 40 with about 30 to go, and there was a stretch where George Russell was stuck behind Kimi Antonelli, his teammate, and Mercedes Tyrell, you know what I'm talking about. They waited so long to let Russell passed. And I have my problems with team orders a lot in F1, but this is one of the situations where you understand why it exists, but they should have made the move significantly earlier, because George Russell had to waste so good tires stuck behind Antonelli, then having to defend Ollie Behrman. When they finally unleashed him, his tires were cooked and there was no way for him to get there, and it ended up costing Mercedes a spot on the podium with either of their drivers when Russell had clearly the faster car.
Yeah, that was a huge blunder. I also recall when they said, Russell, take care of your tires. The surface temperature is hot. And then, of course, like you said, they unleashed them too late. And I mean, what a drive by Ollie Behrman, by the way. I mean, he drove by both of them,
Yes.
got up there. That was great. But again, I am very against team orders. That's the one thing, if on anything, I really hate about F1 is just their team orders. And I see it as, if you're racing for position, just don't take each other out, just like how Mr. Penske says with any of his racing disciplines. Don't take each other out, but just let them race. But and if you could let a person by too, you could let that happen. But they really messed George Russell up, and like you said, once they let him go, his tires were just gone. He ate those things up, and of course the surface temperature was so hot that of course he lost his rears and everything. So I mean, that was just a huge blunder by Mercedes. Which honestly, they've been making a lot of big blunders the past couple of years. Even when Lewis was there, I don't know what's going on, but they are just like not. They just got to get it together. They really have to get that together.
They really do, because I know George Russell signed the extension, but we know contracts in F1 can sometimes be pretty meaningless, and we've seen Lewis grow frustrated with Mercedes and ultimately get out of there. You don't want to lose George Russell because Antonelli's very young, and a lot of the other high-end talents are locked up for the long term, so you got to be careful with that. But this takes me to Tweets of the Week, because before we get to Tim, he'll wrap because he's got something planned. We got to talk about the thing I got to complain about from F1, which was the implementation of cautions and safety cars in this race. Because on the one end, as I just said, Max Verstappen got lucky because Mercedes had a bad strategy to get third. Max Verstappen probably should have gotten second because he was all over Charles Leclerc with 2 laps to go, but a virtual safety car came out for a car well out of the way that, a lot of dispute about whether or not that should have been a safety car. The only person it really affected was Max Verstappen, because that was the one battle on track at that point. He could have gotten second, and if Verstappen loses this championship by 3-4 points, he's going to look at this. But the more egregious one is, I missed the start of the race. I go on Twitter, and I see that Liam Lawson got damaged at the start of the race, had a damaged wing, so he's way behind the field. And there's debris in turns 2 and 3 from when everybody made contact at the start. And there's this video that starts circulating of Liam Lawson well behind the field, catching up to the safety workers, and nearly hitting 2 safety workers on the track who were grabbing debris because they kept it green. Like, what on earth are we doing here? And the thing I don't understand is, where is the communication? There's only 20 cars. It's not that much to keep track of. You need to make sure you relay the information that, hey, a guy had to pit to repair damage that's way behind. He's going to be coming. There is not a window to go and grab that debris. And if there's no window, you know what you do? That's when you throw the caution flags. Not with 2 laps to go, when it's not necessary. When there's a dangerous situation like this, what on earth are we doing here, Tropper? I mean, this was very lucky that nobody got killed. I mean, Liam Lawson, you can see the onboard on Twitter, visibly just frustrated and confused why on earth this was going on.
Be honest, I missed the start too, and that's the first I'm hearing about, so I'm going to have to go check that after. But just from the sounds of it, that is unacceptable if that is the case. I mean, I've talked about F1 safety before. Like, they are, what they do is unparalleled, even compared to NASCAR and IndyCar. They're all good, but what F1 safety can do, like you look with Roman Grosjean, they got to him and 10 seconds. It took him longer to get out of the fire, obviously. But point being is F1 safety and the cleanup crew, they are the best of the best. So for there to be a miscommunication like that, let alone where one of the workers can literally get run over during green flag conditions, that's even more egregious than when we complained that there should have been a caution for Eric Jones, for example. 10 times more egregious. And the fact that that's even in a position to happen, like I said, I would have to watch the tape, but like even hearing about it, like angers me because that's unacceptable. It's scary, it's bizarre, and something that the FIA would need to look into.
Yeah, 20 cars. 20 cars, that should not be hard. With the FIA that micromanages everything, should not be hard to keep track of 20 cars on a track, especially the one that came down pit road. So I'll digress on that. Formula One, fun weekend. Lando Norris gets the victory. And the points lead. They'll be back in action at Brazil on November 9th. But let's wrap with this on our second tweet of the week, because there was one driver who was eliminated from the Xfinity Series playoffs who, I'll preface it with this, had a very good year. At one point was right there with Zilich and Allgaier in the regular season championship, but the round of 8 did not go well, and Martinsville certainly didn't go well. After the checkered flag showed his displeasure with a certain driver, and then with the media, really showed his displeasure in his interview, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, needless to say, Sam Mayer is on it right now. And I understand being upset at Talladega. I understand Jed Burton may have caused a big crash and so on. But to do what he did, to turn around and start crying after the race and start getting angry at people, and specifically Jed Burton, because Jed Burton paid back to you what you did to him, and then you say, oh, well, he's not on the track. It's just like what Justin Allgaier said to the media, by the way, earlier that day. Hey, if you want to compete for a championship, your job's to try to not tick people off, because when it comes back to you the most, it'll come back to bite you. So, welcome back the crying towel. Does Sam Mayer need a freaking boo-boo and a Band-Aid too? I mean, get over it. I am just sick of it. Sam Mayer, again, talented. Saw him win at Iowa, has all the speed in the world. But yet it's funny. This is a man at the same time caused chaos for 3 straight seasons with JRM, wrecked people left and right. People don't respect him. Jed Burton doesn't even respect him. By the way, just want to point this out to you, Sam Mayer, who has more cup starts in your career. Oh, yeah, that's right, Jed Burton. Oh, who as well has worked themselves around and has been around a lot longer than you have, Jed Burton. So I'll say it like this, Sam. You deserve, after right hooking a car that just moved you out the way, the points didn't mean anything at that point in the race because you dug your own grave. You dug your own grave at the end of the day. For you, you either get a seat or you belong sitting with the crying towel, because what I saw after last Saturday's race was an absolute disgrace from Sam Mayer. And yes, he's got one more season with Haas, and I'm eager to see what happens. But your aspirations to go race on Sundays? He's not going to be racing on Sundays if he keeps on doing that, I'll tell you what. So this crying towel, this goes to you, Sam Mayer. You could be crying on your couch next week for all I care.
That is a great way to wrap up this episode. Thank you, Timothy. I hope we got to keep this crying towel going as a bit. We got that. We got this Jeff Gordon thing that, like, screws with Tropper's mind.
Because it's so great. 10 years ago, 10 years to the day this weekend, that Jeff Gordon car was in victory lane for the 93rd and final time. I'm sorry if that's significant to me.
It is a very significant day for Hendrick fans. And maybe Sunday will be too, because they've got 2 of the 4 competing for the championship. Tropper and I will be in the desert Friday sometime. We'll let you know on Twitter and Instagram. We're going to go live with our show on TikTok. Timothy?
What's the temperature going to be? Do you know?
I was checking. It's going to be in the 80s. It will be.
That's actually pretty good.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
Every race I cover, no matter where in the country it is, no matter what time of year it is, it's always 80s and 90s. Darlington in March.
Is the rain streak finally going to end? There's been rain to some capacity every single race I've been at.
I mean, it's probably rained at Phoenix maybe twice in the last 20 years, so hopefully...
time for number 3.
Oh, by the way, real quick. I don't know if you guys have been following this on Twitter, But for the first time since 1994, potentially, none of the top 3 series have had a rain out for a race. So, like, as long as it doesn't rain this weekend, you guys could be a part of history for the first time in, was it 21 years? Needless to say, back when NASCAR had 2 national series, being the Cup and what is now the Xfinity
Yeah, because
series.
the truck started in 95 and next year.
Right, yeah. So that could be something to watch out for as well.
Well, incredible.
Friday, again, we were going to do our show at some point live on TikTok. It's probably going to be a short one. It's probably going to be at mid-afternoon because we got the itinerary and we saw that NASCAR's State of the Sport address is on Friday morning, which will be very interesting and probably we'll have some talking points from that. So stay tuned for that. Again, follow us Twitter, Instagram at Motorsports Today. We'll keep you posted on when we will actually be doing our show on Friday. We're also going to have plenty of content all weekend from all 3 championship races, and Tim and TCB will be back here live on TikTok next Monday to recap the NASCAR championship. So stay tuned for that. That's going to do it for this episode of Motorsports Today. For Tyrell Baker, Tim Moore,